Welcome to a moment in history that you simply can't ignore. January 2nd, 2025. This day has changed everything. In the next few minutes, we're going to dive deep into how this single day has reshaped our world, our choices, and our future. You're going to want to stick around because this is more than just a date, it's a game changer. A date can mark the turning of history, a shift in the tides of fate, or the moment when lives transform irrevocably. January 2nd, 2025 is not just another day on the calendar. It's the dawn of a new chapter that will affect every individual, every family, and every community. It's a moment of revelation, a crossroads where the paths we've been walking intersect with forces we could never have predicted. From the moment the clock strikes midnight, the changes begin to unfurl, subtle at first but undeniable as the hours tick by. This day doesn't come out of nowhere. It's the culmination of years, decades, and perhaps even centuries of decisions, trends, and unseen currents. It's as though history has been waiting, holding its breath, and now in a single exhale, it releases everything it has held back. For some, the shift will feel like a bolt of lightning, an awakening that jolts them out of complacency and forces them to face realities they've long avoided. For others, it will feel like a quiet unfolding, a gentle nudge that grows into an unstoppable momentum. The air itself will seem to hum with a new energy, as though the very fabric of the world is rearranging itself. This is a day of reckoning and renewal. Structures that once seemed unshakable will tremble and, in some cases, collapse. Systems that we've relied on, economic, social, even personal, will be tested to their core. But within the uncertainty lies opportunity. The disruption is not an end. It's an invitation to rebuild, to reimagine, and to reclaim agency over our futures. Imagine waking up and realizing that the rules have changed. The norms and expectations that once dictated your decisions are no longer relevant. You might feel a sense of loss, even fear. But look closer. This isn't chaos, it's liberation. It's a chance to redefine what matters, to strip away the superficial and focus on what is real and enduring. On January 2nd, 2025, people across the world will be faced with choices. Some will cling to the old ways, desperate to preserve a past that no longer fits. Others will hesitate, paralyzed by the enormity of the moment. But there will also be those who embrace the change, who see it not as a threat but as a gift. These individuals will lead the way, not because they have all the answers, but because they are willing to ask the right questions. This day is not about predicting a single event or forecasting an inevitable outcome. It's about recognizing that change is not something that happens to us. It's something we participate in. It's about understanding that the future is not written. It's shaped by our choices, our actions, and our courage to step into the unknown. What will this mean for you? Only you can answer that. Will you see this moment as a burden or a blessing? Will you resist or adapt? Will you let fear dictate your path? Or will you find strength in the possibility of something better? As the night falls on January 2025, a quiet stillness blankets the world. A deceptive calm after a day of upheaval. But this silence is not emptiness. It is the collective intake of breath, the moment before a new rhythm emerges. Across the globe, lights flicker in homes and streets as people gather, some in celebration, others in contemplation, and many in uncertainty. For some, the events of the day will feel like a long-expected storm finally breaking. Old tensions, simmering beneath the surface for years, have erupted, exposing cracks in the foundation of society. Institutions that once seemed eternal are now revealed to be fragile, their vulnerabilities laid bare. Yet amid the debris, there is something undeniably human, a spark of resilience, a determination to rebuild. Communities that have long been divided begin to seek common ground. Conversations that were once avoided are now unavoidable. There is an urgency in the air, but it is tempered by hope. People are realizing that the systems they relied upon can no longer carry the weight of the future. It is up to them, up to all of us, to chart a new course. And then there are the whispers, the quiet but persistent murmurs that this day was not random, that January 2025, is not just a date but a marker, a sign of something greater at play. Some speak of cycles, of history repeating itself in patterns that only now are becoming clear. Others turn to prophecy, to ancient texts and forgotten wisdom, searching for meaning in the chaos. Whether these whispers hold truth or are merely the products of imagination, they add an air of mystery to the unfolding events. Meanwhile, individuals everywhere face their own personal reckonings. For some, the day has brought unexpected revelations, a career choice no longer fulfilling, a relationship that needs mending, or a dream deferred for too long. For others, the changes are external but no less profound, a shift in their community, a challenge to their way of life, or an opportunity to step into a role they never thought they could fill. This is the beauty and the burden of such a day. It touches everyone, but it does so differently. The choices you make now will ripple outward, influencing not just your future, but the futures of those around you. It's a reminder that we are all connected, that our lives are intertwined in ways we often overlook. As the hours pass and January 2nd turns into January 3rd, the world begins to adjust to its new reality. The initial shock gives way to action. People start to rebuild, to innovate, to collaborate. The lessons of the day are clear. Adaptability is no longer optional, and complacency is a luxury we can no longer afford. What will you do with this moment? How will you take the raw material of change and shape it into something meaningful? The tools are in your hands, the canvas before you. This is your chance to not just survive the storm, but to emerge stronger, wiser, and more purposeful than ever before. As January 3rd begins to dawn, the world finds itself standing on the edge of possibility. The first rays of sunlight cut through the lingering haze of uncertainty, illuminating a landscape both familiar and profoundly altered. This is the aftermath of change, a time when the old and the new coexist, and the path forward is shaped by those brave enough to walk it. In the quiet of the morning, people begin to reflect on what has passed. The conversations of the previous day echo in their minds. Words spoken in urgency now seem clearer, their meanings sharper. Promises made must now be kept, and realizations that once seemed fleeting now demand action. It's a time of reckoning, but also of profound opportunity. Across the world, new voices are rising. They are voices of innovation and courage, of people who see not only the challenges, but also the immense potential of this new era. Leaders emerge, not necessarily from positions of power, but from communities, families, and unlikely places. They are the ones who dare to envision a future that is better, fairer, and more sustainable than the past. But not everyone is ready. For many, the changes of January 2nd have left them reeling, their sense of security shaken. They cling to the remnants of what was, reluctant to let go of the comfort of the familiar. This resistance is natural, even human. Change, no matter how necessary, is rarely easy. Yet as the hours pass, even the most hesitant begin to see that there is no going back. The world has turned, and it will not turn again to its former state. In this new reality, collaboration becomes essential. Divisions that once seemed insurmountable now appear trivial in the face of shared challenges. Communities that were once fractured find ways to come together, realizing that their survival and success depend on their unity. Borders, both physical and metaphorical, blur as people prioritize connection over separation. And then there's you. Perhaps you woke up on January 3rd feeling the weight of the previous day, unsure of where to begin. Or perhaps you feel invigorated, ready to embrace the opportunities that lie ahead. Either way, the truth remains the same. You are part of this story. Your actions, your decisions, and your voice all matter. The changes of January 2nd were not just external, they were internal too. They asked each of us to confront our fears, to question our assumptions, and to challenge the limits we've placed on ourselves. They reminded us of our capacity for resilience, creativity, and growth. So what will you do now? Will you take a step forward, even if the path is unclear? Will you reach out to those around you, knowing that together you are stronger? Will you embrace the uncertainty, trusting that within it lies the seeds of something extraordinary? This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one that you have the power to shape. The events of January 2nd may have set the stage, but the script is still being written. Your choices, your dreams, and your courage will determine how this story unfolds. As the sun rises higher on January 3rd, the world begins to hum with activity. The streets are alive with footsteps, voices, and the unmistakable sound of determination. People are no longer merely reacting. They are beginning to act. The initial shock of change has given way to purpose, and with it comes a momentum that feels unstoppable. In homes, offices, and public spaces, ideas are taking shape. The conversations that began as whispers are now growing louder, fueled by a shared understanding that something fundamental has shifted. Plans are drawn, alliances are formed, and a quiet resolve spreads through those who once felt powerless. This is no longer a moment of chaos, it is a moment of creation. Yet the road ahead is not without obstacles. The old systems, though weakened, have not entirely disappeared. They linger like shadows, tempting some to return to the comfort of familiarity. There are those who resist the change, fearing its implications, and others who see it as an opportunity to consolidate their own power. These forces, though diminished, pose a real challenge. They serve as a reminder that transformation is never easy. It requires vigilance, courage, and an unshakable belief in what lies ahead. Amid this landscape of uncertainty, hope emerges as a guiding light. It is not a naive hope, born of blind optimism, but a grounded, determined hope that comes from seeing the potential in every challenge. It is the hope of a farmer planting seeds in rocky soil, knowing that with care and persistence, something beautiful can grow. The children sense it too. For them, the world feels different, almost lighter, as though the future has expanded and new possibilities are within reach. Their laughter carries a different tone, one of curiosity and wonder. They are the first to adapt, the first to dream without the constraints of the past. In their eyes, the changes of January 2nd are not burdens, but opportunities, and their energy becomes a source of inspiration for those around them. And then there are the unexpected heroes, the ones who never sought the spotlight but now find themselves stepping into roles they never imagined. They are the neighbors who organize food drives, the teachers who find new ways to inspire their students, the artists who capture the spirit of this moment in their work. Their contributions, though small on the surface, ripple outward in ways they may never fully understand. As the day progresses, a pattern begins to emerge. It is not uniform, nor is it predictable, but it is undeniable. The world is rebuilding itself, piece by piece, moment by moment. This is not a return to what was, but a leap toward what could be. It is messy, imperfect, and at times overwhelming, but it is also alive with possibility. You find yourself in the midst of this unfolding story. The choices you make today feel heavier, more significant because they are. Each decision carries weight, not just for you, but for the world around you. Will you act with intention? Will you let fear guide you, or will you let hope lead the way? The truth is, no one knows exactly what lies ahead. But perhaps that is the greatest gift of all, the chance to shape a future that is truly our own. This is the power of January 2nd, 2025. It has broken the mold, shattered the expectations, and left us with a blank canvas. Now, as the hours pass and the day stretches into night, the question lingers in the air. What will you create? What will we create? The answer is not fixed. It is evolving, just as we are. The world has changed, and so have we. Now is the time to rise to the occasion, to meet the moment, and to become the authors of a new era. The future is not something that happens to us. It is something we build together, one step, one choice, one act of courage at a time. And as the clock ticks forward, one thing becomes clear. January 2nd, 2025 was not an end. It was a beginning, a chance to start anew, to dream bigger, and to become more than we ever thought possible. The future is here. What will you do with it? As January 3rd gives way to the unfolding days and weeks, the impact of January 2nd becomes even clearer. Across the globe, the ripple effects grow stronger, touching lives in ways both profound and subtle. People begin to recognize that they are no longer merely passengers on this journey. They are the drivers, the architects, and the builders of a world in transition. Communities that once felt distant or disconnected are now finding threads of common purpose. There's a growing sense that the challenges faced on January 2nd were not isolated to any one place or group. They were universal. This shared experience becomes the foundation for a deeper understanding, a reminder that humanity's strength lies in its ability to come together when it matters most. The conversations are changing. They're no longer just about survival, but about thriving. People are asking questions that once seemed too bold, too ambitious. How can we build systems that prioritize fairness and equity? What does it mean to truly live in harmony with the planet? How can we foster innovation without losing sight of our humanity? These questions ignite movements, spark collaborations, and inspire visions of what the future could hold. And within these larger shifts, individual transformations are taking root. People who once doubted their ability to make a difference are stepping into roles they never imagined. The shy artist shares their work with the world, finding that their creativity resonates deeply with others. The reluctant leader discovers a voice they didn't know they had, rallying their community around a shared goal. The everyday person, once content to observe from the sidelines, becomes an active participant in shaping their reality. At the heart of this change is a simple yet powerful truth. The world is only as strong as the people who inhabit it. As individuals grow braver, more compassionate, and more intentional, the collective gains momentum. This is no longer a time for waiting, it is a time for action. The skeptics remain, of course. There are those who question whether this moment of transformation is sustainable, whether the energy of change will fade as the days go by. But those who have embraced the spirit of January 2nd know differently. They understand that the true measure of change is not in its speed, but in its depth. It's not about quick fixes, but about laying the groundwork for something lasting, something real. As the months progress, the world begins to reflect these efforts. Small victories pave the way for larger breakthroughs. New technologies emerge, inspired by a commitment to sustainability and accessibility. Policies are enacted that prioritize people over profit, empathy over exploitation. Art, culture, and storytelling flourish, reminding everyone of the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. And yet, even as progress is made, the journey is far from over. Challenges remain, as they always will. But what sets this time apart is the collective willingness to face those challenges head-on, to confront them with honesty and resolve. The spirit of January 2nd lives on, not as a fleeting moment, but as a mindset, a reminder that change is always possible, no matter how daunting it may seem. And you, standing at the center of this unfolding story, feel the weight of your own potential. You understand now that every action matters. Every choice has meaning. Whether it's the way you treat a neighbor, the way you approach your work, or the way you nurture your dreams, you are contributing to something far greater than yourself. As the days stretch into weeks and the echoes of January 2nd reverberate across every corner of the globe, the transformation becomes undeniable. What began as a single day of reckoning has grown into a movement, a collective awakening that reaches deeper than anyone could have anticipated. In cities, villages, and rural expanses, new patterns emerge. People are organizing themselves in ways that feel more organic, more attuned to the rhythms of their communities. Local economies strengthen as neighbors prioritize supporting one another, fostering a sense of interdependence that had been forgotten in the frenzy of globalization. Markets hum with activity, not just of commerce, but of ideas, as innovators bring fresh solutions to old problems. The ripple effects are evident in the natural world as well. As humanity begins to reevaluate its relationship with the planet, a slow healing begins. Forests that once stood on the brink of destruction are replanted with care and reverence. Rivers once choked with waste now run clearer, their banks lined with people who understand the importance of preserving the balance between progress and preservation. Wildlife, too, begins to return, cautiously testing the waters of a world that, for the first time in generations, seems to be extending an olive branch. And yet this moment is not without its struggles. Not everyone is ready to embrace the changes ushered in by January 2nd. Resistance persists, fueled by fear, misunderstanding, and the allure of old comforts. There are those who seek to exploit the uncertainty for personal gain, attempting to sow division and cling to outdated systems of power. These forces remind the world that transformation is never linear. It is a dance of progress and setbacks, of steps forward and steps back. But the momentum cannot be stopped. For every barrier, there is a breakthrough. For every voice of dissent, there are countless voices of hope. Artists and storytellers rise to the occasion, capturing the essence of this era in words, images, and songs. Their work becomes a beacon, reminding people of what's at stake and why it's worth fighting for. Schools and places of learning become hubs of possibility. Teachers inspire students not just to memorize facts, but to question, to create, and to envision. Education shifts its focus, preparing the next generation not for a world that was, but for a world that could be. Children, born into a time of change, grow up with an innate understanding that adaptation is not a weakness, but a strength. And amid all this, individuals continue their personal journeys. Some are taking their first tentative steps into the unknown, while others have fully embraced their roles as changemakers. Friendships are deepened, families are strengthened, and connections are forged that transcend boundaries. These relationships become the foundation upon which a new world is built. As the first year after January 2nd progresses, the spirit of that pivotal day evolves. What began as a wake-up call has become a way of life. The lessons learned are etched into the collective consciousness, a constant reminder of humanity's resilience and capacity for growth. And you, still very much a part of this story, find yourself transformed. The fears that once held you back now feel smaller, overshadowed by the possibilities before you. You've discovered strengths you didn't know you had, and you've seen how your actions, no matter how small, can ripple outward in ways you never imagined. The world is not perfect, and it never will be. But it is better because it is alive with the efforts of people who refuse to give up. People like you. As the anniversary of January 2nd approaches, you reflect on the journey. What began as uncertainty has become clarity. What felt like an ending has become a beginning. And what seemed impossible has become reality. If January 2nd, 2025 has taught us anything, it's that the world is always changing and we have the power to shape it. What happens next is up to us. Every choice, every action, every voice counts. So what will you do with the future that's now in your hands? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on the most transformative moments of our time.